Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from AnthonyMorganti.com, and this is episode 207 of Photo Critiques. And in this episode, I'm pleased to critique the work of Sam Delpha. This first shot, this is the classic lighthouse shot, really nicely done. Very nice shot. Sky's very interesting. It's processed perfectly, not overdone. It's a real nice shot. If you live near this scene, this is a scene you're going to want to come to a lot and get it under different light, different clouds, just different situations. Maybe you'd get lucky and the flag will be furled out sideways, so we'd get a view of the flag. Little things like that. Different times a year, maybe, if this area, I'm sure where there's snow, you get some snow and stuff like that. But it's a really, really nice shot. This shot here, it's a nice composition. I like that you have the bird looking out into the bigger part of the frame. I mentioned that a lot. But it looks like he had to crop it down quite a bit to get it into this, type of frame. Because it was the 55 to 200 millimeter lens at 200. The problem is there's not a lot of definition. I can't even really zoom in on it because it's cropped so far. And because there's not a lot of definition, it's just blurry, and it's not blurry because you didn't focus right. It's just there's not a lot of definition because it's such it was so far away and you had to crop it down. So because of that, you were limited really by your equipment on this shot. Nice idea. You're just kind of limited with your equipment. The light is slightly harsh. It's kind of coming like this on the bird. So we have this part of the bird is in shadow. This part of the post is in shadow, and then it's kind of bright over here. So the light isn't the best either. But like I said, this is one where you really need to be a lot closer, or get a lot longer lens. This shot here, I like. The color is really nice. The focus, it's kind of blurry again, but it's not from focus. I don't know if you cropped this one too. Yeah, you cropped this one a little bit too. So this is one where, shots like this, you really need probably a dedicated macro lens and to get in really close, and then you could get a lot of detail. But right now, because it's a crop, you can see there's not a lot of detail in here. It's just a lot of kind of blur, but it's like I mentioned, it's not from your focus. I think you focused nicely. It's just not, again, limited by your equipment. It's an interesting shot, very interesting edge of the rainbow, so it's kind of cool, and it's a nice shot. This shot here, I like. The sky is really nice. It's really dark now in the middle here, and it's a little over processed. You could see how we have this kind of glow around objects going across. See how there's like a glow here? There's glow. That's just kind of a sign that there's a little too much clarity and saturation generally, sometimes vibrance. So you want to dial those back a little bit. A lot of noise in it for ISO 200, so I suspect that this was pretty much probably really underexposed, and then you had to really crank up the shadows to get some definition in here and detail. So remember, when you're shooting into a sunset, your camera is going to try to make everything like a mid-gray, so it's going to underexpose the scene. So you're going to have to give a little exposure compensation, so you don't positive exposure compensation, so you don't have the much of the scene underexposed. Generally, I tend to underexpose too because I expose for the highlights, but this looks like it was a little bit too much underexposed, and that's why we have all this noise in the shot. And one thing I should add is the noise, generally the noise will be in the shadows in the dark areas. That's where you get a lot of noise from sensors in the cameras. So you got to be aware of that. This shot here, the cherry blossoms, it's a nice close-up shot. It's real, obviously busy. So it's a nice record of what you saw. Here again, if you could work the scene and do some other creative stuff with this and try to get some different angles. Again, if you had that macro lens, you could get in a little closer and do some things with the the group of 3 cherry blossoms that are around. There's usually groups of 3, I've noticed. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It's not like a 3-leaf, 4-leaf clover or anything like that. But you could get in and get this kind of clump of them, isolated and stuff like that. So you work the scene. It's a really nice shot. I like this shot a lot. Long exposure, 15 seconds. Car went down the street. You got these long streams of light from the headlights and the taillights. Really well done. It's a nice shot. Nice exposure. You did a nice job. The scene itself, I would like to see a person in it. I think that would help the scene out a lot. If you had a person walking down the street, person somewhere in the scene, I think it would really help the scene a lot. This shot here, I like the idea of the panorama to get this entire waterfall in. The trouble is the scene itself isn't conducive to a great panorama mainly because of this like tree trunk stuck right here. It's kind of almost, it's exactly dividing this in half. So it just ruins the flow of the shot and the balance of the shot. Two, because it's such a long panorama and it's so narrow, it's kind of I don't know, it doesn't show a lot. We see a lot of waterfall, but we don't really see a lot of the surrounding areas. We're cut off at the top. We don't have a lot at the bottom because it's so narrow. So that's something to be concerned about. This is another panorama shot. Now this one we have more up on top and more in the bottom, and it's a brilliant sky. We have these God rays, we usually call those, coming through the clouds. We have an edge of a building over here, kind of cut off. There's not anything that's super compelling in the scene though, beside the actual sky and the light beams, the God beams coming through. So this is another one where you got to work the scene. You got to get something more compelling in the rest of the shot, because this is really the backdrop. This really shouldn't be the main subject. You want this to be the backdrop to something else that's really the main subject. This is a dark-eyed junco. I get these birds around my house like all the time. They're a cute little bird. Here I'm not sure. Yeah, you didn't crop this one as much. There's still, it's not enough definition in here. You could see how it's kind of blurry, and I don't think the focus was as good in this one, and there's still not a lot of definition. Now ISO 250 isn't that high, but some cameras handle higher ISOs better than others. So it is, got a fair amount of noise in it, as you could see here. So on this one here, maybe it was underexposed a little bit too, although I don't suspect as much as that other shot that had the bridge in it. So this one here, I like the composition though. You have the bird off to the left. It's looking into the larger part of the frame. The bokeh is perfect, really nice blurred out in the background. This was on your 70 to 300 millimeter lens at 240 millimeters, f/5, so a really nice job. But again, it's just not, the definition isn't there. Now it could be, the lens maybe isn't the best. I don't know for sure. It could be though the focus mainly. I think we really got to focus on the eye of the bird. This shot is a hard shot to do, and because there's so much white. There's just so much white here, and then you have this bird with this dark head, and it's really hard to get your camera to record this right because there's so much dynamic range. We go from this very, very bright gray to all of a sudden this really black, and it's really hard to get this exposed properly. And you can see there's like a glow around the bird from the processing, and that's not because it's over processed. That's because of the camera sensor can't handle this transition that well. So you got to be aware of these things when you're photographing a scene, because you got to know the limitations and the strengths and weaknesses of your equipment. But in this case, you did the best job you could. I like the composition itself. It's excellent. Focus looks pretty good on this one. It's still kind of blurry. I really can't see a strong focal point, so that's telling me that it's not necessarily you're focusing or anything like that. It's more of a limitation of the lens and the equipment you were using. I think that's the last one. Yep, that's it. Sam, thank you very much for sharing your work with us. You definitely have the composition down. There's a couple times if I suggest you maybe work the scene a little bit, and that lighthouse is a great scene to come back to different times a year and different times a day and get some different light. You did very well. Thank you very much for sharing your work with us. Thank you everyone for watching all my videos. I really do appreciate it. If you guys have time, go over to my website, anthonymorganti.com. I have all kinds of photography stuff over there, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys took the time and went to YouTube and subscribed to my YouTube channel. That's it for now. I'll talk to you guys soon.